Moving on to the next topic or title here, which hits the nail on the head. Oxygen is the title. When scientists analyzed the oxygen content of air bubbles trapped in ice core drillings at the Antarctic, they found that the Earth's atmosphere was comprised of between 38% and 50% oxygen not so long ago. And this is exactly what I posited in a previous lesson and why I wanted to read this article, because it gives you more of a carnal connection or understanding with what's going on here that is also noted in the scriptures, as we saw in Isaiah 14 and 8, right? It can be inferred. Over the years, increasing pollution, mass destruction of the rainforest, and the reduction of other natural producers of oxygen have decreased the level of oxygen in our atmosphere from above 38%, and I posit it was much higher, and this article does say right here as well, above 38% to below 20%, especially in highly populated industrial areas. So if you're living in a city, it's even worse for you, and the vast majority of the Earth's population, and America especially, lives in these cities. So it's even worse on them. And then that's why you can go out to the countryside and find people that, in general, they just have a healthier look to them. They just look healthier because they're not bombarded to the same extent with these constant stressors. Toxic waters, a lot of time they're drinking out of well water, although that's necessarily no guarantee, but there can be problems there. What they don't have are things like pharmaceutical waste in the water, chlorine, other such things that you find in city municipal water. Lead, right? Like in Flint, Michigan, which was literally destroying the learning ability and brains, essentially, of anyone that was consuming that water. And of course, Flint is not the only place, and it's not an accident, right? It's by design that happened to communities or areas of cities that are populated predominantly by Israelites. Because our bodies are not designed for low levels of oxygen, such as 20%, harmful toxins accumulate in our blood streams, cells, tissues, and organs. At 6% oxygen, we asphyxiate, meaning we essentially don't have enough oxygen and we're dying. In major industrialized cities where the oxygen content of the air is below 16%, they do not allow their children to run around too much because this damages their respiratory systems. And China is a good example of that. In more and more industrial cities, oxygen bars are being opened where people who are suffering from oxygen deficiency can go to boost their oxygen intakes. I believe those are quite popular in Asia, but I've even heard of them popping up in the US. I know, I want to say I heard an article on the West Coast. Let's see if I can find it quickly. Probably in San Francisco. San Francisco oxygen bar. Right. No, pops right up. Top 10 best oxygen bar in San Francisco. That this might be automatically generated. But, here you can find reviews about oxygen bars, news articles about oxygen bars. Typically, oxygen bars charge around $1 per minute, with 30-minute sessions a day being their maximum time allowed. I mean, it's just getting ridiculous, right? If we want to have clean water, we need to buy it. If we want to have clean air now, we need to buy that too. It's just absolutely ridiculous. These are things that should be freely available to everyone. But again, as Proverbs 29 and 2 says, when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. And this is simply just absolutely wicked. We live in a fallen world. Like it says in the Apocrypha, Esau is the end of the world. and Jacob is the beginning of it. Second Esdras 2 and 9, where Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, right? And we are living at the end of the world. Daniel speaks to that, right, in his interpretation of King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. I believe that's Daniel 2, and Daniel 7 also touches on that regarding Golem as well as the beast. And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. That's the kingdom of heaven, which is right around the corner. Things are going to get worse before they get better. But back to the article. We can live for weeks without food, longer than that. For days without water, longer than that. I've water fasted for, I've dry fasted for 10 days at one point. One of the best times, one of the most cleansing and most spiritually uplifting experiences I've had, going without food and water for that long. And I can understand, I see now why the Bible puts emphasis on fasting, because it really does bring you closer to the Most High. And even at that time when my faith wasn't that great, it dramatically, it's very difficult to describe. I don't fast that long anymore, partly because when you're doing it, because your body is cleansing itself, and I was filled with toxins at the time, still am, and most of us are. When you do that, your body will shed a lot of weight to remove those toxins and use energy stores. If you're filled up with parasites at the time, they're going to be a continual drain on your energy. So as a result of that, I actually got quite thin. And what's difficult about that is, although I felt fine, people around me were getting concerned. And honestly, I would have continued longer than 10 days. But when you have that kind of pressure from people around you to say, stop doing it, we're concerned, they just, they don't listen to anything you say. They just want you to start eating food again. So I kind of stopped partway into the fast. And I believe I alluded to it before, but that's why the oxygen or ozone therapy, I find that so much more convenient is the right word, efficient isn't quite the right word, but it just fits into my lifestyle a lot better. And I believe that's true of most people. It's just, if you go and do the fast, because it's such a powerful cleanser, it, also takes away a lot of your energy, but people around you are going to, start saying, they're going to start questioning what the hell is going on with you. And it can be more of a distraction, than you need at that point in time. And then the article says, so we can live for weeks without food, for days without water, but we can only live for minutes without oxygen. As you sit reading this guide, you can live for at least another hour without having something to eat or to drink, but if you stop breathing, you will fall off your chair and die within 5 minutes. Today, it is clear that man is functioning less and less effectively because of growing oxygen deficiency. Sure, we've talked about that in previous articles. And this explains it quite clearly here. Chronic oxygen deficiency at the cellular level leads to the accumulation of harmful toxins and metabolic and acid waste in our systems. Talked about that up front. Creating a breeding ground for harmful bacteria, viruses, and pathogens. There's more I could say on bacteria, virus, and pathogens, but I think we'll kind of leave it at that. There's conflicting viewpoints about what, if at all these viruses are, what if at all these pathogens are. I've spoken to previously, the problems in the human body, boil down to more or less two things. Toxins and parasites, especially true on a spiritual level. Moving on in the article, this anaerobic state can then result in cellular mutation. Dr. Otto Warburg, twice Nobel laureate, stated, primary cause of cancer is the replacement of normal oxygen respiration of body cells by anaerobic cell respiration. And I believe we covered him in a previous lesson briefly. Oxygen is essential because it is our main purifying agent, right? Oxidizing toxins and waste in the body so that the body can effectively expel them through its normal channels of elimination, such as respiration, perspiration, urination, and defecation. And you'll notice, I certainly noticed, it probably happened maybe 10 or 20 years ago, but there's a big push for everything needs to be antioxidants, 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 which does play an important role. But, the flip side of that is it's convincing people that oxidation is bad when really it's a process that we need to purify our bodies. Next paragraph, we need oxygen for life, health, and energy. And because of our modern day pollution and way of living, we need something simple and effective that can supply us with more oxygen so that our metabolisms become more aerobic and burn up all this accumulating waste matter in our bodies. Then it goes on to talk about their product, which I have not used before. But one product that I recommend that, again, fits into my lifestyle very well and probably many others, that's also cost effective and overall very efficient, is Homozone, which is primarily magnesium oxide that you take with some type of acidic liquid or compound. I'll read the next paragraph as well. I think this is helpful and could lead into some other interesting lessons in the future. Section 1.3, water. Apart from oxygen, we need water to live. Unfortunately, the growing pollution in our modern day world is having an increasingly detrimental effect on our drinking water. Hazardous chemicals such as mercury, lead, arsenic, cyanide, aluminum, and phosphorus are getting into the water system every day. Other dangerous chemicals such as chlorine are added to reduce harmful microorganisms. All these elements add to the load of toxins that our bodies have to eliminate. For cleansing and nourishing ourselves, we need 1.5 to 4 liters of good quality drinking water every day, which we get from liquids and foods. Dehydration causes bodily functions to go into distress because less toxins are being removed and less oxygen and nutrients can be transported throughout the body, especially to the brain. For this reason, it's difficult to find pure anything today, but as the scriptures say, we will eat our bread defiled among the Gentiles. Ezekiel 14 and 13, and the Most High said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them. And here we are many of us scattered into America, the daughter of Babylon, eating our defiled food, as this article points out.